guys, welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. Brian, Mr. Smith Kitchen. Oh, it's a weird spot. And today, being Thursday, I thought we'd pick something. Thought we'd do a German chocolate cake. We're not going to do any German chocolate cake because, believe you me, there's a lot of variations out there. I'm going to attempt the original recipe. Now, I've never made a chocolate cake, German chocolate cake before of any kind, so this will be a new experience of itself, let alone a recipe from 1957, which is when it was created. Now, I did learn a few things about this cake, little history lesson. The German chocolate cake isn't actually German. The reason why it's called a German chocolate cake is because of Samuel German, who created the chocolate that goes in it, which is this chocolate here. It was created by the Baker's Company, so this is even the original kind of chocolate. He worked for the Baker's Company, which was a mill foods company at the time, and this was in 1852, and he created this wonderful treat, and it's a little sweeter than semi-sweet chocolate. It's like a nice go-between between milk chocolate and semi-sweet. And then in 1957, a happy homemaker by the name of Mrs. George Cray, I never could find her name, but she was Mrs. George Cray, came up with a recipe for a German's chocolate cake, and they published it. The Baker's Chocolate Company published it, the recipe, and Mills Food decided to change it to German chocolate cake, which is where it got its name today. And this recipe was so popular, it raised chocolate sales for the Baker Company by 73% that year. Quite amazing. This recipe has got a lot of new things in it that I've never quite done before. Well, one in particular, and it has to do with the chocolate that we're about to do here in a minute. And I think it'll be kind of fun, though. So, that being said, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm glad you stopped by. I hope you get something out of this video. Check out my other videos. If you're returning to my channel, thank you. I appreciate it. Either way it goes, thank you. I'm glad to have you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below me. Right next to that's the notification bell. Videos come out twice a week, most weeks. Lately we've been doing 3. We like to bake on Thursdays. We cook on Wednesdays. And then on Saturdays I've been doing food processing. Canning food from the garden and some other stuff so far. Thumbs up, thumbs down, very helpful. You that does 2 things for us. A, it lets me know how you're doing, or you're trolling me. Either way, it gets us into the algorithm for YouTube, which helps to get us out into more people's feeds and lets us grow our neighborhood. And that's what our channel, my channel is kind of about. It's our channel. You watch it too. Is about being a good neighbor through food and friendship and being nice. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Comments always welcomed. All I ask is you keep them nice. I'll respond to all of them in some way, shape, or form, whether it be a heart, an actual comment if it needs a comment, or if you're just being a jerk, I'll just cancel you out of my channel. So that being said, let's get down here to the counter where we can start making this chocolate cake, and I will give you all your weights in cups, teaspoons, tablespoons, along with grams. That way everybody can bake along with us. Because depending on where you're at in the world, depends on how you weigh your stuff. And I personally, I prefer grams, even though most things that we do here in the U.S. are in cups, tablespoons, teaspoons, and some ounces, but not many. But I prefer grams. It's a lot more accurate when it comes to baking. So anyhow, done running my mouth. Let's get down here to the counter where we can get started. Hold on for me just 1 second. Okay, we're down here on the counter. So to get this party started, we have to first work with the chocolate. So here is our 4 ounces of chocolate. It's one bar. And to our chocolate, I've got some boiling water right here in this saucepan. This is what threw me for a loop, because I've never had a cake, or anything else for that matter, where I needed to add boiling water to chocolate. So we'll take our boiling water, and I need a 1/2 cup's worth, and I'm gonna pour this in so I get a 1/2 cup of boiling water, which is crazy. And then we're just going to pour this in over the chocolate as soon as I get something to stir it with. And it's important that you do this first. I would almost do this about 15 minutes ahead of time. We're just going to mix this up until it completely melts the chocolate. Crazy, isn't it? Yeah, like I said, I've never melted chocolate in water like this before. When I first looked at this recipe, I thought it was a double boiler gig. Yeah, where you would put the water in the pan, put the bowl on top of it, and melt the chocolate down. No way. We're actually going to melt this down in here, and then we have to let this cool down to room temperature. All right, we got her nice and melted. And then the chocolate, and then the water. Now all we got to do is just set this to the side and let it cool down to room temperature. But that's okay. There's plenty of things we can do while that's happening. So the next thing you want to do, I've already gone ahead and did this, is, let me get you down here a little closer to the counter, or a little better under the counter. There we are. Now that we got the labor-intensive part out of the way, is go ahead and you can do this while your water's heating up, yeah, or while the chocolate's cooling. I went ahead, you need 3 9-inch pans. I went ahead and buttered them, put parchment paper on the bottom of them, then floured them. Yep. And then the next thing we need to do, after we got that while that's cooling, is we're going to go ahead and get our dry ingredients together. So let me remember what I did with my bowl. Hold on for me 1 second. Okay. So if you're new to my channel, you're looking at my entire kitchen pretty much. Very small kitchen. It's smaller than a galley style kitchen, but I love it all the same. And to this bowl, and we're going to sift it, because that seems like the proper thing to do. Gets all the lumps out. Is 2 cups, 240 grams of flour, just like such. And then we're going to put in 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, just plain old baking soda. I mean, I don't think there's any other kind of baking soda, but if there is, you want the plain kind. And then, and that is 4 grams of baking soda, 240 grams of flour, and then 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of salt. Now I'm using kosher salt. If you don't have kosher salt, that's fine. You can use regular salt. I just prefer kosher salt. Use it to cook with everything with it. Brings out flavors like you wouldn't believe. And then we'll just go ahead and get this through the sifter real quick. Flip it over so that way I can get the stuff that didn't make it through. There is that. Those, I don't know why, but those particular strainers that everybody seems to use as a sifter, including me, get stuff caught around the edges. All right, so now that we got those 3 things together, we're going to grab a whisk and whisk it up real quick, just to make extra sure we got all 3 things put together. And then we can set this aside. Quick and easy. Quick and easy. Just like such. Set this aside. Okay, so the next thing we're going to need is a stand mixer, a hand mixer, you know, however you want to work it, so to speak, to do our wet ingredients with. I suppose you could probably even use a spoon or a hand whisk, although in my opinion that would be a fair amount of work. But this recipe was done in 1957, so I can't imagine that they couldn't use that everybody had a hand mixer or and definitely probably not a stand mixer. They most major appliances like this didn't come out until the 60s and 70s. There might have been some in the 50s, but they'd have been really expensive. But that being said, I'm using a stand mixer with a paddle attachment. If you have one, you'll use paddle attachment. If you're just using a hand mixer, then you would just use your whisks. So I'm going to add in here 2 sticks, 1 cup, 228 grams of butter. And I am going to add 2 cups, 400 grams of sugar. I'll go ahead and start creaming this up. And as that's creaming, I'm going to go ahead and put my sugar in there. And we're going to let this run for about 3 to 5 minutes. We want to get some air in there, get it nice and creamy, you know, and in good shape. smooth, creamy, and fluffy, I mean like the consistency of fluffy mashed potatoes. Because it's not like, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. To me, it reminds me of the consistency of a good mashed potato. But you watch most other videos and they'll be like, oh, light and fluffy, light and fluffy. Well, I mean, it is light in color. It's no longer yellowish in color like your butter was, and yeah, the sugar has ceased to be sugar, and it's more like a mashed potato. So that's what you want to cream your sugar and butter until it's the consistency of mashed potatoes, I guess is what I'm getting at. At least that's the opinion I have of what it's like. All right, so to this, we're going to go ahead and throw in 4 egg yolks, room temperature, large egg yolks, 4 of them, just the yolks, but don't throw away the whites because we're going to use those still, just not right this second. We're going to take those and turn them into a lovely meringue and fold that in. All right, so we got our egg yolks in there, just like such. And we'll stir that in. All right, we got our eggs mixed in. I'll give it a good scrape. And scraping and making sure that your stuff is combined is like uber important. If you don't scrape your bowl and like give it a good once over, every once in a while you inevitably end up with like just butter at the bottom or something like that. Every bowl you mix in, no matter hand mixer or stand mixer, has dead spots. You know, on hand mixers, it's usually like on the sides of the bowl where it goes down, where your beaters can't actually get to it. Stand mixers like this one, it's usually in the center. So you always want to, scrape. Never hesitate to stop and scrape. At least in between every single step. That way you got it good and mixed. All right, so the next thing we need to add to this is going to be 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of butter, right there. Or butter. 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of vanilla. And I use pure vanilla extract. And then to that, we're going to take our chocolate, which believe it or not, even though we just did it, is already down to room temperature. It doesn't take long. And we're going to pour that in. Just like such. Like I said, this is I've made several things with chocolate, cakes, and otherwise, pies, brownies, cupcakes, and never once have I mixed the chocolate with water to make a cake, to put into the cake. And then we are simply going to stir this, just stir it, just like such. If your stand mixer doesn't have a stir, like mine does right there, it says stir, you'll want to put it on like 1, like you were doing flour or sugar and you didn't want it to all blow up in your face. Alright, got that fairly well incorporated, so once again, scrape, scrape, scrape. Yeah, scraping is important, I'm telling you. And we get that. And that way, it's like right now in the bowl, if this bowl were glass, which I have one, we're about to use it here in a second. But if this bowl were glass, I guarantee you would see like some white streaks in this where the chocolate didn't get to everything. I know this because I can actually see one. But, so we want to get in there and make sure everything is mixed up good. Like I said, that bottom is known for not mixing all the time. That in there. All right, I think we are in good shape there. Go ahead and get this. Like that. There is that. Now, the next steps we got is to add the dry mix and some buttermilk. You're going to need 1 cup of room temperature buttermilk. Now, you can buy buttermilk in the quarts, and unless you use it a lot, you'll probably waste most of it. I use buttermilk powder and make my own buttermilk. That's just me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It lasts for months in your fridge. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1/3 of our dry. Alright, about 1/3 of our dry. That looks like about 1/3 of our dry. And we're going to stir this in on low. And you always want to start with your dry. Yeah, no matter what your ratios are, like this is 3 parts dry mix, 2 parts liquid. We're always going to start on dry. You always want to end on dry also. So if you're doing like 2 parts, you do dry mix, buttermilk, dry mix. Alright, we got that incorporated in. Doesn't have to be perfect. Grab our spatula here, scrape down the sides, get some on our fingers. That's what we do. There's that. We're gonna get that off my finger. Ugh. Now I'm gonna start this back up again, and I'm going to add half my buttermilk. So 1/2 cup of buttermilk-ish. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. This part doesn't have to be perfect or precise. Yeah, you just want 2 pours of the buttermilk, 3 scoops of the flour. Buttermilk's all in there. Remember, 3 parts dry mix, 2 parts buttermilk, ending on dry. Like I said, I don't know why it's that specific order and you're supposed to end on dry, other than that's what the professionals say, and so that's what we do. All right, get that off of there, Scrape you around. Where's my offset spatula? There you are. Get as much of this as I can off of the paddle attachment, because we're pretty much done with the paddle attachment. We got our wet and dry mix. We got a couple more steps to go. Okay, so now at this point, we are going to turn our oven on. And we are going to set our oven at 350 degrees. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get that started. Just because we're going to be a minute. And we're going to take this off. Give it one final scrape. Make sure we're good to go there. Oh yeah, that looks beautiful. Just like it should. Light in color. Yeah, German chocolate cake is traditionally lighter than a regular just chocolate cake. Alright, let's get our secondary backup glass bowl here. Boom, just like that. Like that. We gotta wipe this tip off here real quick. And in our other bowl, now if you didn't have a second bowl, you could have just easily put your batter into a bowl and just use the same bowl. But I have a second bowl and I didn't want to have to use just a regular bowl. It seemed like an extra step to me. But remember how I told you to save those egg whites for the 4 large eggs at room temperature, or your yolks at room temperature? 4 large egg whites. And we're going to simply put this in the bowl, just like such. And we are going to whip these to stiff peaks, okay? Which means that they should hold form when moved. So we'll whip this, start out whipping this on 4. Once we see it start to bubble, I'll move it to 8 and then 10 until we get stiff peaks. Alright, I think we are at stiff peak. Give it a shot, give it a look here. Yeah, I'm going to say yes. What we don't want is, so I'm horrible at doing this thing, but we don't want it to fall. So see how it's not falling off or anything? That's stiff peaks. It should be like a meringue. You know, it should be able to hold like that. You know, I know that's a horrible looking peak, but it's all part of me not being a professional baker with decades of meringue making experience. But that being said, we are a success all the same. It's kind of like whip topping. Yeah. Now, if you are worried about overbeating your eggs, you can put a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar in here, and that will help. It will keep you from overbeating your eggs. So, next thing we're going to do is grab my offset spatula here right quick. Clean off this spatula. And there's a lot going into this bowl, I tell you. You can't beat it. But I can tell you, it's just going to taste phenomenal. I can feel it. Like I said, somebody else's. I've had German chocolate cake. I've just never made one. And I like German chocolate cake, so I hope I do it justice. So, we're going to go ahead and get this in there. And you want to fold this in versus using your mixer, so that way you don't break it down. Because you want all that air in there. The whole point of putting the egg whites in this way versus just putting the whole egg in is so we can make the cake even moister still. This helps with moistness, where the baking soda we put in helps give it a lift, and along with all the air we put into it. We've put so much air into this mix that it will give it a nice height on all 3 layers. Okay, so we got our egg whites beat in. Our meringue is now incorporated, looking good. Got a nice batter full of air and fluffiness. So now all we have to do is take our pans. This is where a scale is going to come in handy, because we want to put batter in all 3 of these pans, and we want to do it as equally as possible, so that way we get an even bake, on all 3, and we're not pulling one out early or late. And it's going to be about 400 grams. There's our oven's going off. But it's roughly 400 grams, I think, is a good guess. I'm sure it's a little more than that, but I would start out with 400 grams per pan and take it from there. Okay. We got them weighed out. They came out to 470 each, so a little more than 500. I was at least in the 400 range. Almost I was close, but I was closer than I could have been. All right, so now we're just taking our offset spatula. You can use the back of a spoon, and we're just smoothing these out, getting them in as even as possible, so that way we don't have uneven cakes when they come out of the oven. Although I know how to fix an uneven cake. I've had plenty of practice at it over the years. Although my cake game has stepped up a notch in that aspect at any rate. I'm still prone to screwing up a cake every now and then, but all the same. All right, so what are we going to do next? We are going to first put these in the oven, and then we'll talk about the time. These in here. And set the timer real quick so I don't forget. Okay. Good job, guys. Way to bang that out. We did all that in about 30 minutes, which oddly enough is the time recommended on the original recipe that it takes to make this, or at least get it together. It's 20 or 30 minutes. So we had our oven preset at 350 degrees. We're going to let this bake for 30 minutes. And sorry, I had a little bit of cake mix on the counter here. And when about 25 minutes, I want to check it and toothpick test it with a toothpick going down the center. Comes out clean, we're good. Because everybody's oven is different, including mine. So I struggle when a recipe gives you an exact time. Now, it could be 30 minutes. Cakes, traditionally, in a 9-inch pan can take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. So 30 minutes isn't out of the realm, but I'm still going to check it at 25. So when the 30 minutes is up, or they're done, I'll come back, we'll check them together, and talk about what we got to do next. All right, I'll see you here in just a moment. The oven just went off, and so we should probably pull our cakes out, give them a, well, I should say the timer just went off, not the oven. So we'll go ahead and get our cakes pulled out here, and we'll test them just to make sure we are in good shape. Whew. That oven is hot. Now I'm here to tell you. All right. So let's grab a toothpick out of the old cabinet here. We're actually going to do 2 tests, because why not? And the first one we'll do, put our toothpick in the center, bring it out. It should be clean, and it is clean. Do that to all 3 of them. Good. Good. And then the actual test it says to do on the original recipe is to check for springiness. Now that bad boy is hot, so I would recommend, unless you are used to it, going with just the toothpick test. And another thing I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to take my offset spatula and I'm going to go around the edges, because I can see some of it stuck to the edges even though we buttered and floured our pan. And I'm sure it'll pull away, but just to be on the safe side, because I can see it, and some of these is already starting to pull out, but they should pull away. I just want to be on the safe side of it. As I said, we buttered and floured. Now, in the original recipe from 1957, the only thing she said to do was to take wax paper and put it in the bottom of your cake pan. You know, and I don't know anybody that, I mean, we have wax paper here just in case, but I didn't know that was a thing, only because wax paper will actually melt in whatever you're baking once it gets over 350. All right, so I'm going to let these set for 15 minutes, and now that we know they're done, and then when I come back, we'll take them out of the pans. All right, I'll be back in just a second. All right, guys, so we let these cool for about 15 minutes, and being the prepared person I am, I forgot to get a plate. Okay, plate. So to get these out of the pan, we already ran around the edges with them, so hopefully all is well. Yep, I just heard it drop. We just simply flip it over. Now, if you've got small cooling racks like this that are, you know, the round ones, you can just as easily flip over on the cooling racks and let them rest. I don't have any of those. You're looking at my rack collection minus one more like this. But we'll go ahead and take this off. Throw that in there. And we'll flip this back over and lay it down. And we will just simply wash, rinse, repeat. Just like that. So, what we're going to do is, once I get these off of here, and I will take these racks and move them out to the dining room, and then we can not tear stuff up. We can start working on the filling, and we'll talk about the filling, because that's really what makes this cake, other than the chocolate being German's chocolate, you know, we'll just call him Samuel, now that we've gotten to know him so well. But it is not only the chocolate that Samuel Germans created for the Baker's Company, but the unique filling that comes with it, which is a nice like caramel, coconut, and pecan. So let me get these moved out of the way, and when I come back, we will start making the filling, because it has to cool down to room temperature before we can frost everything. That way everything's at room temperature at once. All right, so give me just one moment. I'll be back, and we'll start that filling. Okay, we got everything cleaned up. Back to the stove top. No more baking, just some quick cooking. So we need a saucepan, all right, obviously. And in this saucepan, we are going to add 4 egg yolks. Now, you can save the whites and put them in the fridge, but we won't need them for this recipe. You can use egg yolks or egg whites, though, for several things. Like if you're going to make an angel food cake, something like that. Definitely something you will need. But for the filling, we just need the yolks. So I've got 4 egg yolks in here. We'll go ahead and get those in. And to that, we haven't turned it on yet. We are going to add one 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. All right, add that to it. And to that, we are going to add 1.5 teaspoons, 6 grams of vanilla. And then what we're going to do is take our whisk, and we're going to whisk that all together. Now your egg yolks, much like any other time, are at room temperature. Not only does room temperature does two things for egg yolks. It helps to maximize volume, and it makes it easier to break up. Look at that. If those eggs would have been cold, not only would we not been able to maximize their volume, but we'd have been sitting here chasing them around the pan. If you ever made scrambled eggs with cold eggs and you're just kind of chasing them around the pan for a second before you finally catch them and break it up against the edge, that's why. It's because they're cold. All right, so we got those three things in there, and we've whisked them together. We blended them. Now we're going to add 1.5 cups, 300 grams of all-purpose sugar. And we're going to add 3/4 of a cup, a stick and a half, or I wrote it down. No, I didn't. Yeah, 171 grams of butter. All right, and we want it to be softened butter. Yeah, it doesn't have to be melted. I mean, melted would help. That's our end game. And now we're just going to turn this on to medium, high. And we're going to try to, probably could have used a little bigger saucepan, I guess. That's all right. We'll make it work. And we will cook this on medium for about 12 minutes or until it starts to thicken and turn golden brown. Okay, we're thickened, golden brown, looking good. Can't argue it. So now we're down to just a couple more steps. We're going to go ahead and turn the stovetop off. We're going to take it off the heat. We're going to add in a 1.5 cups at 80 grams of chopped roasted pecans. And then we're going to add in 7 ounces, about 2 2/3 cups, or 200 grams of coconut. And I'm not going to use my whisk for this because it just will get caught up in the whisk. So I'll just take my spatula here and get that all stirred in there real good. And then we just got to let this sit and cool to room temperature is all we're going to do. Now that we've got all that mixed in, I'll set it back here in the back corner of the stove. That way nobody comes by and knocks it and little fingers don't get hit on it. And once that's cooled and our cake finishes cooling, we'll go ahead and ice her up and try a piece. All right, see you in a second. Guys, we got everything to room temperature and then some. Got caught up doing water changes with the fish tanks and some other stuff. It's been a busy day, but that's all right. Yeah, so now all we have left to do is take our icing, our pecan and coconut icing, and we're not going to necessarily put it all over. We're not going to put it all over the cake. We're going to put it in between the layers and on top, like the original recipe was. Now there are like a million variations to this. You can put some, like we're going to do in between. You can not only put it in the middle, but all over it. Completely ice it with this. Or you can put this in the middle and in between each one and on top, and then do the sides in a chocolate icing, which if you'd like, I'll leave the description, I'll leave the ingredients for the chocolate icing that came as an option with this recipe. I just chose not to. It's been a while since we've done since I've done an open face cake, you know, where the sides are open and it's just got the icing on the top and in the middle. So I thought, why not? Let's do it. You know, there is the first layer. Then we'll just take the second layer. Tell you, these cakes turned out beautiful. Although I did notice something when I was downstairs. I was cleaning up the grocery store. For those of you who are new, I call my pantry the grocery store. It's also where I keep all my baking stuff, because we don't have the room up here to do to have all our kitchen supplies. So we store it downstairs. But anyhow, long story short, I thought this morning I grabbed 9-inch pans for this pie, or for this cake, and I didn't. I grabbed 8-inch pans. So yours might not turn out as thick, but now we know at 30 minutes in the oven, 8-inch pans will work if that's what you got. You don't have to necessarily use a 9-inch pan. Now, that being said, I think if I were using a 9-inch pan, I would probably go 25 to 27 minutes maybe on the cakes. Definitely check them at 25 minutes, as the case may be. I don't think I put quite enough frosting on the first layer. That's all right. We'll just put more in this layer and on top. I got plenty of frosting left. I know this looks fantastic, and the kitchen has smelled great all day. Right now I'm making a French toast casserole for dinner, so which is awesome. I don't know if I have a video for it or not. I'm pretty sure I do, but I could be wrong. Oh, all right, there is that. Now we'll do our final layer on top. Looking good. Yeah, I could have probably used a little more in that first layer. That's all right. That's all right. I'm not going to disassemble it. It's just for the house. It's just for us. Now, if I were doing this for a customer, I would probably pay a little more attention. But I would actually probably wait out each layer. That's all right. It's just for us, right? So, you see how, well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but some of the sides are like frayed. How would I fix that, per se? Well, I think actually if I used a 9-inch pan, that would have probably helped. But let's just say all the same, we were making an 8-inch cake. Well, if that's the case, then I have rings that I use that are 8 and 9 inches respectively, that I would slide down on each layer and clean those sides up so that way they look perfect. A lot of times in pictures, that's exactly what they'll do, is they'll put rings on they'll use rings to make the sides nice and even and perfect if they don't come out quite right. All right. There we are. Absolutely beautiful. Now, you could take a little chocolate icing and dollop it on the top if you'd like, or something like that, or put some sprinkles on it, or I know what we could do besides with my finger. I got something I can use. So, to help make this, give it a little something on top, I've got some toasted coconut that I can just sprinkle on the top. And it's a nice, simple, basic cake. It's not hard to make. It's very old school, obviously, from 1957. But there we are. Make sure we're nice and even and straight all the way around. There we go. Beautiful. Here is our 1957 original German chocolate cake. Made for us. So now all we have to do is cut a piece and give it a try. That thing is so tall and big. Definitely will not take a big piece. I bet you could easily give 12 people a slice of this cake. See how moist it is. Run that back down through it. Felt like I missed the middle. Let me get my I mean, I suppose I could have just used a knife, but I always feel better when I use I guess it's a pie tool. Oh yeah. Yeah, that looks good. I'll take that every day of the week. And once again, my knife never fails. Always wants to leave out the very tip of the cake. You know what? That's all right though. It's just me and you, right? But there is our cake on the inside. Tell me that thing isn't like huge and layered, and I mean it's just so stacked tall. And let me move the tip to the side so you can get a good view of what our cake really looks like. There we are right there. All right. So let's give it a taste. I know so far I'm very proud of myself for my first attempt ever at a German chocolate cake. And hopefully, I know the icing tastes amazing. I've had it on my fingers a couple times now. So, but, oh, and it's moist. I can tell just by the way the knife went through it. Tell you, Miss George Cray, you make a pretty good German chocolate cake. That is a heck of a recipe. That's a great cake. That's a great German cake. Hands down. Yeah. It is moist. It's got a good tight crumb to it. That filling is amazing. Yeah. Definitely one to serve at parties. Let me get one more bite. Yep. You guys really need to try this. Not a difficult recipe. Not at all. Good solid cake. One thing I would recommend, and it's just to speed up the icing process, is once your icing cools down a little bit, 15-20 minutes, stick it in the fridge for about a half hour. It'll cool it down quicker than waiting to go to room temperature. That's what I did. And it turned out fine. Thickened it up nicely, because what's thickening it up is the butter. So the quicker you can get it colder, the quicker you can ice it. But that hit, hands down. That cake sat out here in the open for a good couple, 2-3 hours. I didn't cover it or anything. It's still very moist. That icing is to die for. And make one of these and take it to a neighbor, or invite a neighbor over for a cup of coffee and a piece of good old German chocolate cake. I guarantee you it'll be a conversation starter. So, this Saturday, we are going to, what are we doing? We're processing mushrooms. And it's quick, it's easy, it's a no-brainer. And they're something that's getting more expensive. With the way inflation is hitting and prices are rising, if you can find it on sale or a manager special, buy it up and put it on a shelf, especially if it's fresh, you should be doing it. Now, mushrooms aren't something you grow in your garden, but if you can find them on sale, snag them up, or a manager special, snag them up, take them home, process them in a jar. They're good for 1.5 years. So, if you try this recipe, by the way, let me know. Leave me a comment down below. Check us out on Facebook at Mr. Smith's Kitchen. We have a group there where, I try my hardest to share recipes when I find them. I know I got a few friends that share recipes on there. Chris shares recipes on there. You'll find my videos there. On top of here, there's just all kinds of things, and we look forward to hearing recipes for you. Or if you try this, you can comment on what you think of it, or comment here. Either way, let me know. Let me know if you tried this. Let me know if you have a recipe of your own. There's like 20 different German chocolate cake recipes. So till Saturday, when we can some mushrooms, I love you. I love you very much. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else you love them and you love them very much. It's going to make their day a whole lot better, especially if you take them some of this German chocolate cake. I'm telling you, they'll know they have a friend. All right, I love you, and I'll see you Saturday. Talk to you later. Bye.